Sorry, I was just waiting for Michael Tang to complete yet another announcement there. He's really trying his best to get us back on time. We are about 15 minutes off the pace here. We are back at the 2016 Causeway Challenge here in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. Jesse Matthews and Chris May here to bring you this round 41 matchup on Table 1. For the first time in a while, we are seeing a new challenger take on the almighty Nigel Richards. Harshan with a very dramatic 1-point win over Australia's Esther Perrins in the last round. They actually were tied at the end of the game when they had hit the final clock, but they did a recount, and it turns out that Harshan actually won by 1.
They recounted a tie. Wow, I didn't realize that. Do you know who requested to do that?
I do not know. All I know is that Michael Tang told me that they were tied when they went into the recount, and upon recount, Harshan won by 1. So a very tough game.
Always interesting when someone requests to tie a recount tie. Anyway, here we are with Nigel Richards and Harshan Lambadasuriya kicking off. We're going to get you updated standings as soon as possible from the end of round 41, so you can see where things are at. Meanwhile, I don't know if Jesse mentioned this introducing this matchup, but we've only seen Harshan once on Table 1.
Very early on in the tournament.
Yeah, I think it was early on day 2. He played a game against Jesse Day, and of course, tough to judge how a player's doing with just the one game, but Harshan's game in that round was not clean. He made at least one word knowledge error, and what we were classing as a couple of positional misplays as well. Nothing too dramatic, but it certainly wasn't quite up to what we've seen between Nigel and Dave, or Nigel and Mark, in terms of words, and that's very understandable. Harshan's returning to the game after quite a significant period of absence, so he's just finding his feet again, and obviously clear from his results here that he's capable of matching it at the very top level, and now very much in contention for a tournament win if he can notch up a couple of wins on the trot against Nigel here and bring Nigel back.
So Koji is suggested as an option for Nigel over something like jibes or jokes for more points. Yeah, certainly worth putting into consideration here. And it looks like Nigel's decided it also is worth putting into consideration. Yes, Zev, that was the roting game where neither player added the T for troting. So Harshan with a little bit of funkiness early on here, one scoring tile in that Y, which does actually play alongside Koji. He could play Yeah, Y-E-A, K-Y, O-E, and J-A for a decent amount of points. The lead's not so great, but it's hard to turn down those points. And it looks like he's decided the same thing, that it's just too much to turn those points down. Nigel, meanwhile, has gotten a few more letters that don't have the greatest synergy when they're all together. F, P, and V, along with nose on his rack. Meanwhile, Harshan continues to struggle on his end as well. No counting tile this time on his rack, but he's got a 5-vowel to 2-consonant ratio, including 2 O's and an A, so that's going to be a bit difficult for him to navigate.
And meanwhile, I'm just typing the current standings into the chat. I'll read those out shortly as well for you, so you can see what the standings are looking like with 4 games to go.
While he's typing that, actually, I will just spoil it and read.
Cool. Good idea.
So Nigel is at 28 wins and plus 1585. Now the high spread over David Eldar. Second place is Harshan Lambadasuriya at 27 wins and plus 612. So about 1,000 spread points back on Nigel. David Eldar is in third, the lone player at 26 wins plus 1544. So the one with the realistic spread to catch Nigel on, just needing to win from here on out. Esther Perrins with that 1-point loss is in fourth at plus 925. Ayarinde Saidu continuing a nice late run here to get to close to the top of the leaderboard, also to 25 wins plus 471. Then there are 4 players at 24 wins. That's Alistair Richards, Jesse Day, Tacha Kuirat, and Mark Nyman, respectively.
So there's your top 10 in the chat. I just spotted that Dave Wiegand has slipped down the field a bit. He's in 18th place at the moment on 21.5 wins. That's a full 6.5 games off the pace. So been a bit of a struggle this tournament for him. He's knocked on the door, made it into the top 5 or 6 once or twice, but always come back down again. Just shows you what this kind of tournament format can do when players like Andrew Fisher, Nigel Richards, Dave Wiegand and Common barely have featured on Table 1.
Yep. And yet we're still seeing a lot of quality games on Table 1 for the most part, which just goes to show the depth of the field.
So I'm just looking at the position for almost the first time. I see it's a little bit tight. Was Koji played and followed by Yin, I assume. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So Koji, and then Vane played by Nigel, holding back FP OS, I believe, something like this.
It's a pretty handy draw for him then.
Yeah.
So looking like Harshan will go down a substantial early deficit here, and we'll see what his comeback game is like. Having said that, I think there's only one spot for Nigel Bingo here, but it's quite unlikely to get blocked with the tiles held by Harshan. Nigel did declare his lack of fear of nine-timers after the first game today, so I expect we can see Spoofed go down without too much fuss from him if it remains available. There is nothing down from G1 to G7 with the tiles that he holds. Harshan playing a wildly open move there. Plonking down Orlight. And I'm sure it's not news to any of you guys on the chat that front hook's with a Z.
And Spoofed is looking a little more likely from KYE now.
I must say that Louis in the same place suggested in the chat looks miles better to me than the chosen play of Orlight. Although it does front hook with some heavyish tiles, the F and the B, both go front on J2, so that may be a point against it. But Harshan really breaks up his rack there.
Oh, Spoofier. Yeah, I didn't even look through the eye because I saw Spoof would have gone down at K7. But yeah, Spoofier definitely a better play. Double-double.
Harshan's tile are not yet of the kind that he's going to need to engineer this comeback. Nothing spectacular leaping out from the H1 triple. And the bottom of the board is actually not really a kind of shape that's good for Harshan now. That V is a bit of a killer tile down the bottom left. That's going to take quite a bit of development, especially with the J where it is. With one Y played, that J10 option is not high scoring. I'm going to require an S to be burned. Same goes for the 11 row under Yin. Of course, bingos will go down there, but you're going to need an S first. And looky here, Nigel Richards.
He has the Z, of course.
Pulls out the Z.
Of course he has the Z.
But I think most players in the chat will agree that that was a needlessly created opportunity by Harshan. He had other options if he was going to play down the J column that did not break up his rack so much and leave that very big hook available.
You know what? He actually has Ginzo to the O and Spoofier anyway, so either way it's bad.
Well, not impossible that Harshan will spoil Ginzo. He can at least play something like aggro that actually spoils the big NZ stuff on the top rank as well. Sorry, I keep saying rank and file. I watched way too much of Carlson Karyakin. I was listening to the commentary on Chess24 for that, and I'm seeing chessboards all over the place. Anyone else catch any of that? What an amazing queen sacrifice by Carlson in the final play game to cement his world title again.
I did not get to watch any of it, but hearing about sacrificing a queen sounds preposterous, so it must have been quite the game.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, being the most powerful.
Yeah.
It just sounds. Yeah. And interesting choice by Harshan, Grave. And this gives ungazing.
Wow.
So, yes, looking to be an early bloodbath.
Guess what? Ungazing takes an S front hook.
Sungazing, yes, and Harshan actually will have the S for that, although not with much else.
Nigel's gonna. Oh, this is cool. Nigel, of course, whacks it down. No fear.
Now, will Harshan have the cojones to pull the trigger and put this down?
It's funny. This is exactly the same spot on the board where there was last time we watched Harshan. The word roating was down there at A2, and Harshan did not spot the T, or wasn't sure of the T front on it. Here we have an absolutely massive S hook. What a beautiful word to show off on the top table of the Causeway Challenge. Ungazing to sun-gazing.
You know, if Harshan doesn't play it, Nigel will, should he get...
And Nigel with 177 points, you can bet your life that Nigel Richards knows that hook and will play it.
So I guess Harshan is challenging,
and
not sure why, really.
And that tells Nigel that Harshan's very unlikely to stick an S. Yeah. So this is a brutal game at the moment for Harshan. He's going to take a pummeling unless things turn around pretty quick smart.
And you've got to think that when playing that, Nigel is doing a little bit of an opponent-specific play here, thinking it is possible, perhaps, that his opponent may not know the hook on it, and based on the challenge, perhaps doesn't know the spread either.
I think quite a few of us just learned that hook 3 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I think that you play ungazing in that position, assuming that you yourself know the hook. You play ungazing in that position almost the whole time against virtually any player. I'd have a hesitation against Mark Nyman. I'd have a hesitation against Nigel. Oh, wow.
Nigel has picked the ass, so in the next turn, whether it's Harshan or Nigel, it's possible we're going to see it.
It's quite funny. Nigel's got a 7, which does it even fit? He may not have to decide between his bingo and sun-gazing, because the bingo may not fit. So, lots to talk about in this game, but unfortunately it's one-way traffic. Harshan not really managing his rack effectively early on, and that's proving to be, more costly than it perhaps should have been. That was doing extremely well, but there's little inaccuracies.
Yeah, and disc trail is pointed out by Puneet as a bonus from L1, but I think I would probably go for a non-bonus play given the nature of disc trail.
And
Stayed is what I would probably go for.
Or Slade is actually good. SLAID.
Oh yeah, that would be better.
That's the highest equity.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
That makes it less appealing now.
Let's be positive and say that was partly to block sun gazing.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
It also manages his rack somewhat. But disc trail is still there as an option, and now that it's between C and sun gazing and disc trail, it's still so many points though, it's hard to turn down.
I'd actually quite like SI here.
Yeah.
Keeping title, no bad leave. Lots of ease to draw to that.
He's not playing it right away though, so doing some calculation.
Obviously the Z hook on to Olight is not an issue. How unlikely is it that Ginzo Zorlite combination was available and
Neither
not the
were
best
right.
play? Yeah. Yeah, some opinion in the chat that Nigel might play his bingo and hope to draw another later to knock out that spot for another bingo score. I think that's a very plausible strategy, actually.
Yeah, considering he has Eldar spread to consider, should Eldar win and come back into the mix.
Nigel sometimes doesn't like to make assumptions about other players' weaknesses of word knowledge. It looks like he's
playing SI, it looks
playing
like.
SI by the looks, yeah.
It looks like Harshan's smiling as he looks at that.
Oh, imagine getting burned by Nigel with ungazing to sun-gazing. I mean, how much does that hurt? I would have been dying in my chair if it were me.
Yeah, it's a toughie. So the jig is up as Harshan realizes the what's going on with his play here.
So this is a total blowout for Nigel, most likely. He had already just overtaken Dave on spread, as I think you pointed out, Jesse, at the start of this game, by 40 points. So, you know, if he wins this one, as we all assume that he will, he's going to be 2 clear games ahead with a healthy spread lead.
Yep.
With only 3 to go. And someone is going to have to dig very deep to take this tournament away from Nigel Richards, the way this morning's games are panning out.
And that someone is most likely to be David Eldar. But we'll just have to see what happens. Chris Like says that moment you realize you passed up SH for 75 because you weren't sure.
I don't think we should be too critical of Harshan for being unsure of sun gazing. Lots and lots of top players would have been unsure of sun gazing. And Nigel draws quite nicely to his lead. I did note that there were plenty of E's for him to get, and he could well make another bingo in very short order and get a 300-point margin off Harshan here. Joshua corrects me, his draw wasn't really good at all. I guess that's true, EI. But the E is helpful, and you're not going to complain much with this kind of a lead.
Definitely.
I suppose if he'd pulled an N instead, or something, it would have been even better. An S would have been a bit much to hope for. So we've got to find something to say about this game over the last half of it. The result's not in doubt.
Jackson suggests Rhea from the R engraved. No, not Rhea over on the R and spoof your Ying. Rhea over at B4.
And Nigel, of course, will be playing for margin here.
Yeah.
And so trying to make a bingo looks a good shout. I wonder if Riyadh might be even better. And indeed, Nigel does like that opening up of the C column by putting the D down. And I can't argue. I think that's a nice and brutally effective play. Nigel Richards to give himself every chance of running out a winner here. And I mean of the tournament, not the game.
Yeah.
Oh, and look at this. The blank comes out of the bag, and Nigel is winning this by 300. I'm going to go over to table 2 and see if there's a 300-point margin on that board as well.
All right. In the chat, Stirrable has been suggested as a 9 through the TR. That's nice.
Hi everyone, still early days in the Eldar Perrins clash on board 2. Can tell you that the score is 118 to Dave and 72 for Esther, with Dave to play holding QZ and a blank on his rack. So he would like his chances there, and he's going to be the one, I think, who's got to be the white knight to come and drag Nigel down and keep playing this tournament through to the very last rounds, if anyone's going to do it. I think we all think it's going to be David Eldar.
Yep. And David, of course, doesn't know right now because he's playing his own game, but with this huge win that's coming in Nigel's direction, the spread's going to be fairly in Nigel's favor from this point on, so it'll be not just even on wins that they'll need to be, he'll need to win by enough spread as well, depending.
I think it's amazing what Nigel can do. A day ago, David Eldar was leading this tournament by 2 games and 1,000 spread points over Nigel.
And now Nigel is going to be up by about 400 potentially, depending on what happens here.
And have a 2-game lead of his own.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. I mean, we don't understand everything he does, and we've had, I don't know, about 4 or 5 plays, maybe not that many, perhaps 3 plays that we thought clear mistakes from Nigel that we've seen.
But that's over the entire tournament, which is saying a lot.
And even those ones, Nigel had reasons for doing what he did. We maybe don't agree with them or fully understand them, but he certainly saw the options that we were advocating.
So Harshan has played of keeping DNRSU.
And just psychologically, Nigel might like to play the 9 here to really, really rub salt in the wound.
Yeah, why not? Have 2 9s on the board.
Is it the highest scoring play as well?
Some suggesting that Nigel could just blow open a triple-triple, but I don't see the need for that.
Put an E in 7th position to give Harshan squander.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
But we may see Nigel's word power further on display here with Stirrable, a beautiful 9. And so just looking a little bit ahead, if I can bring up the standings. Unfortunately, I don't have them in front of me right now. Just going to go back up the chapter when I typed them in before. Let's say that David Eldar wins this game against Esther. He will re-leapfrog Harshan to take 2nd place. But that whole chasing pack will be, 2 games behind Nigel, plus spread, with 3 to go. And that really means that David Eldar would need to beat Nigel 3 times on the bounce to take the title.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone can do it,
it's him.
And Stirrable goes down meanwhile. So Harshan Lambadasuriya, he's getting outdrawn of course, but is also seeing a bit of a word knowledge masterclass from Nigel Richards. Looks like Nigel's got that on the board, but just looked at it a while before hitting the clock. How nice is that to spot? I mean, for a top player, even if you've studied the 9s, spotting that through disconnected letters with one of them a blank, that's a bit of a tough board vision assignment.
Yeah. I think Harshan has learned from his previous challenge.
Harshan's given up. I mean, He's 306 points down.
It did seem like he held it, Joshua, yeah, but yeah, no, it is a brutal bloodbath.
And we think that Nigel Richards is going to have to take 3 beats in a row from David Eldar if he's not going to win this title.
But again, you know what? To his credit, it's taken this long to decide, and in a tournament this long, that is saying a lot about how much the rest of the field is starting to catch up. Nigel's still the clear strongest player here.
For Jackson, yes, this is round 42. 3 rounds to play after this. So this position is really completely dead, guys. I mean, we don't have a lot to say about it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's honestly hard to discuss theoretical options, because really you're just playing for tiles at this point.
Yep.
And there's not really even much to say about spread management, because you're already down 300 points.
Harshan just plays for the finish line here. I mean, the only really sound strategy is just try and get another bingo for yourself, and that means playing off the queue somewhere as quick as possible. You know, don't try and be clever with the QU, I shouldn't think. Develop the bottom if you can. I don't think you can do that with a Q dump. I'd probably try and keep the C column open for another turn or two.
Squad or something like this is very possible. Yeah, he's just burning through tiles.
Squad. Trying to draw the case S, hoping for a bingo on row 15.
Zev, thank you for your feedback. Yeah, we are enjoying being in the booth, providing commentary, certainly. I'll speak for only me, but I have learned a lot watching this week. And I've seen a lot of games this year, close to 100 games of commentary, and the best games have been here. Or Kremwen, as Golan would know.
Everyone's favourite. I'm going to repeat my Dave Wiegand anecdote for anyone who missed it before, and sorry to those who did hear it before.
Do it.
So we had the commentators playoff last night after hours, 3-speed games, where I was fortunate to run out a 2-1 winner over Jesse Matthews. And these were my first face-to-face games in a full 2 years since playing in late 2014. And I had the privilege or the curse of being kibitzed by Dave Wiegand, who seemingly had nothing better to do and was hovering as we commenced game 1. On my 4th move, I held CCLOST and blank, and I was pretty proud of myself to see occults for a 7-letter word, only to hear the ominous twangs of Wiegand in my ear. Oh no, you missed a 10. Lo and behold, ERE on the board. I missed Cereclots, that's CERECLOTHS, for about 90 points, hitting a triple word score. Wiegand found it without even breaking a sweat.
It's just absurd, but you know, that's Dave for you. He has studied well into that range of 10s, and I think even I think 11s I've seen him do on Aerolift before.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mic drop. He basically left the room after that, saying, "My work here is done." Classic Wiegand. It was good.
Just reminding the world, yeah, I'm good, guys, even though this tournament's not necessarily showing it, I am still good.
We know he's good. I'm really disappointed that I haven't seen a Dave Wiegand game to call. I'm a big fan of his play, and I think he's one of the very, very best players never to win the world title.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, I've watched him do 10 Sons of at one major tournament, and it's incredible how fast he is at them.
And this is only getting worse for Harshan.
Yeah, because Nigel has Alliund and Unideal.
Unblockable bingos. So this spread could even barrel out to nearly 400. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And this is just making David Eldar's assignment harder and harder. Not only does he have to beat Nigel 3 times, that's assuming he wins this one, not only does he have to beat Nigel 3 times, he has to beat him with spread 3 times.
Yep. Which means, I guess at least for us in the immediate round after, we're going to see perhaps a few unorthodox moves that are spread-oriented as opposed to win-oriented.
We could see some interesting play, and the trade-off is we could see the tournament decided 2 games before the end, which is not great. But let's not get ahead of ourselves too much.
He still has to win his game this round.
He does. I don't have any other Dave Weekend anecdotes.
Actually, I do remember, I didn't get to witness this myself, but someone in North America did see Dave Wiegand once type Tiva Barnbongs into Ziziva and hit the adjudicate key. It, of course, came back unacceptable.
So Nigel, he'll be a little bit worried about protecting his 326-point lead here. Some defensive play coming up, I think.
Harshan's got everyone's favorite Canadian word, Mountie, the one that we've all tried at some point.
You've tried Mountie at some point?
I have. I have at Mountie, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We, of course, believe that should be a valid word, but it does not work.
I would just like to remind everyone who didn't catch it when I mentioned it yesterday that Nigel seemingly came close to making a transposition error yesterday in one of his matches. It wasn't on table 1. It's the kind of error we saw from him a couple of times in 2008 and 2009, where he played words with 2 tiles transposed, making a phony, and lost turns because of it. He did that in a couple of quite important games, one at King's Cup against David Eldar, but we thought that the bug had been fixed. And it just about has been, but yesterday against Jesse Day, Nigel laid down the word pelk, P-E-L-K, which is a phony, and that word hooked O-D to make K-O-D as he laid it down on the board. So 2 phonies simultaneously were sitting on the board with Nigel looking at it and not quite hitting his clock. Jesse said that lasted for a full 2 minutes while he tried to play it cool, hoping that Nigel would commit to the play. Nigel looked and looked at the board, eventually picked his tiles back up very slowly, said Jesse, and then laid down kelp, making pod, to Jesse's disappointment. Looked at that for a full minute, and then at length hit his clock. So 3 minutes to correct that transposition error. I don't know any neurology, and I don't know what that says about how Nigel's brain works, but I think it probably says something.
It is fascinating, yeah. And Harshan, who is undoubtedly pissed off at this game, has a really pissy word in his rack.
UTI. Come on, Harshan, you can get to 300. Do it, boy.
I definitely...
Come on, son.
I definitely have those moments in games like this where I really lost, where it's like 300, and I finally get it. It's like, yes! It's almost like a moral victory. Meanwhile, Nigel with just 1 vowel, but of course the X and lots of scoring tiles. Very possible still that he's going to hit 600.
First we'll have seen on table 1.
Yeah, it's amazing. With all these games, we haven't seen one yet.
Well, we've seen some extremely good defensive play throughout, and these players are good at limiting each other's runaway scores.
Yeah. I have to say, with something I've noticed, is there is an assumption from some people that experts just blow the board wide open in all parts of the board, and I think we're seeing that that's not the case necessarily
No,
here. I think it's
definitely
very controlled, the way that the board is being opened in these games for the most part. I'm looking for, up blue at the bottom from the U in squad, I see.
And I'm happy to ask Nigel about this play, if people would like that, or I can ask him why he elected to play SI instead of this trail as well, if that would be of interest, although that one's a move that we think we can understand. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to see what's happening on board 2.
Sounds good. And then Chris Light asks a good question, are there any triples in the pool through a W available? That would undoubtedly influence the decision here a little bit.
On table 2 at the moment, David Eldar is leading Esther Perrins 303 to 242. Now they both have bingo racks. Dave holds the blank, and Esther's rack is realism. So there are bingos on the board as well, but I think David Eldar probably now a solid favourite to see that one out, which is I think the result that we would like to see for the tournament's sake.
Yeah.
David has been doing it tough against Nigel, but if he gets a chance, I think he's the one who's most likely to take it.
So Nigel opting for Lou, so not playing up blue or any option with the X.
Nice pick up. Apart from anything else, this is a massive bagging, but two, maybe even only one minor inaccuracy at the start of the game, and this game was suddenly taken right out of Harshan's hands.
Yep.
Pretty amazing. And the flow-on effects from playing Louis as opposed to Borlight in that position were massive. And I'm not even saying Louis was the best play. It did give away stuff on row 2, and Harshan may not have liked that.
Joel Sherman sees Air Cruise and Air Screw in the pool as a possibility after up blue, if I am interpreting what you're typing correctly, so that would be a reason not to do it. Jason Katzprone says that Harshan missed ST or SH hooking, ungazing, that it's a massive blunder, and yes, certainly from an objective point of view, we agree. Sun gazing, I think, is pretty tough to pull the trigger on, as whatever common or uncommon nature of the word it is, especially when you're playing Nigel, who has absolutely perfect knowledge as to whether that word works or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blunder in terms of the plays that were objectively available to him, but it's the sort of thing that even in a top player is kind of quite forgivable in my book anyway. But hey, you're playing Nigel Richards at Causeway, you need to find the best play. Yeah, so if you get a game against Harshan in future, guys, do play words at A2 vertically that take front hooks, because I'm not great on those.
From an equity point of view and all the options, we don't disagree, absolutely. It is a big mistake. We're just speaking of some of the other factors involved, that's all.
Also the psychology of, say he was 95% sure of it. Imagine how bad he would have felt if it had turned out to be a phony.
It would feel pretty bad.
Yep. True enough, and Jason's clarified his comment to say it's not quite right to say that without making any mistakes the game was taken away from Harshan, and I think that's a fair enough observation.
It is fair.
Yep.
Yeah, because he certainly made them.
So this game will shortly be over, and I think that's going to be a relief for us in the booth.
And probably for Harshan as well.
Indeed.
That he can finally...
He can skulk back down to Table 2. And of course the Table 2 games are also being annotated, guys. They're just not being live streamed. And I believe that there is a database of games that's being put up or will be put up on the Causeway Challenge website. And guys, this tournament has been an absolute treasure trove of high quality games.
Yeah.
Not just the Table 1 games, but the off Table 1 clashes as well. Have been really, really exciting sometimes. Zev Kaufman asks, has Nigel ever played a deliberate phony? The answer to that is absolutely yes, he has done so. I remember him playing VERO in a tournament in the Philippines in 2009 and taking advantage of one of the local players there in a position that wasn't going anywhere for him. And I think there are one or two other well-known examples as well. I don't know if you have any more, Jesse.
No, I was trying to think of any myself. I was thinking it's hard to say with all the games Nigel's played whether or not he's ever played a deliberate phony. But since you have an example, there you go. I think by default it's not what he used to do. He'd rather play valid words from what we've seen of his many games. But yeah, it's certainly happened.
It does happen.
So Nigel does clear the 600 point mark with Pixes, and I would guess Lou was allowing for the possibility of drawing it.
Cool.
Because he did keep XP, and was the S already in his rack? I can't remember. XPE.
I think it was, right?
XPES, I think all...
Something like that, yeah.
XPESB, because the B was in his rack for up blue. Yeah, something along those lines. So anyway, he has maximized on his scoring opportunities to clear 600.
And a 300 point margin is going to make him an absolutely rock solid favourite to take this title up over the next 3 rounds.
BPRX left over. Okay, so no, he didn't keep the S. Okay. Yeah, so not an outright setup then with Lou, but certainly would be aware that he's giving himself the lane to score in.
Yeah. I guess it may be an attempt just to back himself to pick the S and get spread.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe. Who knows. I don't really understand well how to play positions where the game is completely decided from an early stage. As I've said in the chat commentary a couple of times, I'm not sure that's a well-explored region of the game's theory.
No, and we've joked that there is a glitch in the Matrix a few times with some of the plays Nigel makes when he's clearly won a game, but not seeing anything like that here really in this game. Pretty straightforward from his end. Harshan running down to his last 30 seconds of play. As far as he's concerned, I guess it doesn't matter if he leaks any further spread. Goes out with Rook. And does not clear 300.
Doesn't quite make it. So a 320 point beat at the hands of Nigel Richards for Harshan there.
That is painful indeed. Very
painful, and that will damage his chances of winning this title very heavily. I'm not entirely sure, and we don't have the current standings in front of us right now, but it may be mathematically possible still for Harshan to take this title, but we think
that should probably end it.
Probably going to be a Nigel-Dave affair from here. Yes. And that's assuming that Dave can take out this win against Astor Parens, which is currently in progress. And before we go off the air, I'll see if I can get you the most up-to-date results, information I should say, from that board.
And just while you do that, I'll just rehash the standings here, just so everyone is on the same page. Before this round, Nigel was in first place at 28 wins plus 1585. With that win, he's going up to 29 wins and just short of 2,000 spread points. Harshan Lambadasuriya was the lone player at 27 wins and plus 612. He'll remain at 27 wins, and with that drubbing, he'll be plus 200 in the high end of plus 200. David Eldar is playing Esther Perrins, and they were exchanging bingos, it sounded like, on the last update, but Eldar was ahead by one already, so looking good for him to jump back into second place. But if David Eldar wins, yeah, he will certainly be in second. If Esther wins, she'll be at 26 wins as well as David Eldar, but David Eldar would likely stay in third. So the question is whether it is Harshan again against Nigel or David Eldar, and that depends on that game.
So, I caught that game just at a quite dramatic moment. There's a very stressed and very amped David Eldar playing Esther Perrins on board 2. He was, as we said, defending a lead, and I got there just in time to see Esther attempting to play a very, very high-scoring bingo, hooking an S onto Perigil as an attempt to catch up, which, if you saw the position, was a legitimate choice given her deficit. I think it was maybe her only way to win the game. That has come off to Dave's relief, and he bingoed straight back, so he'll be winning that game. As he sat down after the challenge, he muttered to me, "This is my worst game of the tournament," so he's obviously thinking that he's not happy with how he played it, but he's going to run out the winner, and so we're going to see the match we hoped for, Eldar versus Richards again, with Dave needing a couple of wins to keep himself in the title contention.
So that puts Nigel at 29 wins and 2 clear of the competitors below him. Harshan with basically no spread in the high plus 200s, and David Eldar, not sure how much he's winning that by, but he'll probably be at about 1,600 on the positive side of spread, so he'll be 400 spread points back of Nigel going into this, and 2 games back, so he'll need to win basically all 3. Meanwhile, Harshan will be playing Esther again, both at 27 wins apiece. Harshan will be playing Esther. Esther will be at 25.
I'm sure Harshan will play, right?
Harshan will be at 27 still. So, that's true. Esther will drop lower, possibly. Irinde might jump up, because he's the other 25. So, it's not certain who Harshan will play yet, but it is certainly going to be Nigel and David for the next game or 2.
And of course, we'll give you updated standings as soon as we have got them. Question in the chat, when is lunch? That'll be after the next game. So the next game of the day will kick off as soon as all games in Premier Division have finished and the refreshed King of the Hill pairings have been issued to the players.
I'm taking a glance around the room. It looks like a lot of the top division games are done, so I'm going to guess in about 10 to 15 minutes at most we should be back. So don't quote me on it, but we're going to say roughly quarter to 12 local time, so that's in about 12 minutes or so. So until then,
stick with us, guys, for another Eldar Richards battle.
We'll see you there soon.